that. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with my portion of the presentation. So again, welcome everyone. Today we are discussing in this webinar the Rural Economic Development Initiative, which is an acronym called REDI. This program is housed at the Department of Local Affairs within the Colorado Resiliency Office. So for those of you who get really tired of all the acronyms, we have plenty of them, but essentially we are housed within DOLA, and within DOLA we are housed within the Colorado Resiliency Office or the CRO. So if you hear me using any of those acronyms, that is what they stand for. Let's go over just a general idea of what REDI is. So REDI is a program within the Department of Local Affairs that is designed to help Colorado communities to create jobs locally, build resilient and diversified economies. Part of the reason why we are housed at the Colorado Resiliency Office is that we look at our program in two main ways. We look at it as a job creation program, as well as an economic diversification program. And it is through creating jobs and through diversifying rural economies in Colorado that we believe that rural Colorado will be able to build resilience to whatever shocks might happen in the future, whether it is a pandemic, wildfire, natural disaster. We believe that creating those, that platform is something that helps communities to be able to recover and recover quickly. So that's sort of like the broad intent of what our program is. What are the brass tacks? What are sort of like the main big points of what REDI is? So REDI, like I mentioned, is a grant program. We get a yearly allocation from the state legislature of $780,000 every fiscal year. So coming up this next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st, we will have $780,000 to be able to give out for that year. It is important to note that on the grand scale of need, $780,000 is not that much. And so in terms of the kinds of projects that we tend to support or community projects that we're able to fund, those grants will typically range anywhere from $50,000 and usually won't exceed $150,000, or in very rare cases will exceed $150,000 for a single grant. Understanding that and understanding that REDI is not a huge program, we understand that like there may be ways for you to use REDI to supplement existing funding that you have, or supplement a project that you're already working on, to be able to activate a space in order to be able to move something forward when it comes to an economic plan or whatever it might be. But do keep in mind that we're not like some other state programs that have millions of dollars to be able to give out on a yearly basis. For all of you who might be interested in applying for this year's cycle, it's important to know that our application portal is going to be opening on February 16th, so next week. And that portal will remain open for a month and close on March 16th. And so on March 16th, that is the last day for you to be able to get your applications in. From there, the applications come to our team, and we work for about a month in order to be able to prepare that for our decision-making committee. Our decision-making committee for REDI includes some folks from DOLA, some of our regional managers, some of whom you may be familiar with, as well as representatives from a few other state agencies like the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. That decision-making committee then looks at all of the applications that we got, scores them. I'll go over what that scoring criteria looks like in just a little while. And then we anticipate being able to make awards sometime in May or potentially early June. That way you're able to get under contract in the start of the next fiscal year for us, which starts in July. Some important notes about REDI is that we are legislatively bound to where all REDI funds that are awarded within this coming fiscal year need to be spent by no later than June 30th, 2025. So it is a 2-year grant period. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of wiggle room with that, as it is something that is stipulated to us from the legislature. So it's another important thing to keep in mind is that not only is it a $50,000 to $150,000 grant, but you do only have that 2-year time frame in order to be able to spend those funds. So with that, who is eligible in order to be able to get REDI funding? As the name implies, when it comes to rural economic development, our focus is on rural communities, which we defined as any Colorado county with a population of less than 50,000 or any municipality which has a population of less than 25,000. So, for example, if you live in a county that has only 50,000 people, more than likely you're probably also in a municipality that has less than 25,000 people. But it is either one of those organizations that are eligible to be able to receive grants. It has to be either a county government or a municipal government. That being said, others are allowed to be able to partner with either a county or municipal government in order to be able to apply for a REDI grant. Some examples of that are intergovernmental agencies, housing authorities, economic development organizations, nonprofits, private employers, and also Colorado's recognized tribes as well. All of those are allowed to be able to apply for grants, but they would have to find a partner in either the county government or in the municipal governments in which they're located, as those would act as the fiscal sponsors for those applications. So I get a lot of questions around this specific piece. So one question that I often get is, are those agencies able to apply themselves? Are they allowed to be the ones that are administering the grant and actually executing in the grant? And the answer to that is yes. But in order for us to be able to grant those funds, it has to go to that county or municipal organization. And so they're the ones, the county or the municipal governments will be the ones who will be doing reimbursement requests to DOLA in order to be able to get any funds back from what they do. So that's just a broad overview. That being said, in addition to those county and municipal governments, we have often worked with councils of governments. We've worked with a lot of different organizations as well. So don't be deterred if you are not necessarily a member of one of those governmental organizations. And we can talk about how we can get you connected to whoever might be the most appropriate contact for your community that you're in. So that's who is eligible. Let's talk about the kinds of projects that are eligible. We created REDI in a way that is trying to be adaptive and responsive to the needs of rural Colorado. And with that comes a lot of flexibility, but we do have some guidelines around what kinds of projects we're looking for and what are eligible. So there are two important things to keep in mind. Based on the REDI statute that comes to us from the legislature, all REDI projects have to fill two boxes. One box is job creation and retention, and the other box is economic diversification. So as you can see here on this first slide here, the job creation and retention part of it, we are looking for projects that are directly attracting businesses or are looking to be able to retain existing businesses within communities, projects that are attracting new industries, and also, in addition to that, indirect examples of how that can be created. So infrastructure or placemaking projects which would allow, for example, a new business to be able to open, or a business park or things like that would be considered eligible, as well as actionable economic diversification and development plans. So we do allow for planning grants, marketing studies, consulting services, all of those sorts of things. But we do need to have an associated plan as part of your application. So for that, we would really want to see how you anticipate jobs being directly created through the efforts of that economic diversification or development plan. So with that, that's sort of like the direct jobs piece. How are you actually creating new jobs within a community is one thing that we're going to be looking for. The next piece that I mentioned is economic resilience. And for us, economic resilience takes the form of economic diversification. So we try to look at projects that are helping communities to be able to diversify their current economies, whether they are a rural community that is currently dependent on agriculture or mining or whatever it might be. We like to see projects that are helping a community to be able to attract new industries or create new opportunities for certain sectors that may not have already existed there to be able to come in and set up shop within that community. This is taking a really sort of long view approach that hopefully will build on the work that they are doing. And it's important to recognize that we understand that when it comes to economic diversification and job creation and all of those efforts, that it can be somewhat nebulous and somewhat difficult in order to be able to show or be able to prove that, especially in a short-term period like a 2-year grant period. So we understand that, and we do like to see some of those projects that take some more of those long-term approaches, and we understand that that job creation, sometimes you just have to be able to set the stage for it through economic diversification, and then the jobs will come through. So those are sort of like the two major statutory things that we are looking for. And then within all those two different buckets of job creation and economic diversification, there are a few other things that we can look at. One are projects that are supporting entrepreneurial ecosystems. You're going to actually be hearing from a few of our guests today who fit into that bucket of folks who are helping those entrepreneurial ecosystems exist within rural Colorado. So those could be accelerators or incubator projects, infrastructure for co-working spaces, maker spaces. We've done quite a few of those over the past few years. Anything that would allow for entrepreneurs to be able to have the resources that they need to start a business, or to be able to expand a business, or to be able to do whatever they need in order to create more opportunity for their entrepreneurial business that they might have, their small business as well. Another way that we're able to support this, and this is new this year, so if there are any of you who have listened to this lecture before or who have interacted with REDI in the past, you might have been aware that REDI has supported capacity building projects throughout the state. So hiring staff in order to be able to do the work that is really, really important. We know that this is a major thing within rural Colorado, that this is a major need that has been identified for us. What we have found with REDI in the past and some of our other capacity programs that we've been able to support over the past few years is that there have been some best practices that we've seen through certain projects that we've been able to support that really are able to make these capacity projects successful, while others have had some difficulty, specifically with the 2-year time frame that I mentioned earlier that we have for REDI. So we this year have added a few caveats and a few additional things that we would be looking for in any capacity building project that we are hoping will be able to help communities be able to sort of hone in on what a capacity project would look like, and really make that position and that hire really successful. So one thing that's really, really important, that if we're going to support a capacity building project, it has to be tied to a specific outcome, project timeline, and contributes to the specific goals of job creation, business attraction, and economic diversification. If there is not a clear, direct connection between what the capacity position is going to be working on, and it doesn't connect to one of those areas, it's not going to be a very competitive application from our end. With that, we are also this year, this is sort of like the major thing that we are adding to any capacity building applications, is that we're looking for a specific sustainability plan for funding that position beyond the grant term. So we are happy to sort of have REDI be that sort of seed funding to be able to help you get a capacity position underway. But we do want a really clear plan on how that position is going to continue to be funded beyond the grant term that you would have. So beyond that June 30th, 2025 deadline for this cycle. If you're not able to figure out what that looks like, or be able to make a really compelling case of how you're going to continue to fund it, then more than likely it's going to be a tough sell for our REDI committee this round. Additionally, another thing that we have decided is that if you have received funding for a position through REDI before, for a capacity building position, REDI will not fund will not continue to fund that position for another cycle. So we have a few projects out there that are currently underway with folks who are doing some really great economic development work. But in order to encourage communities to come up with those sustainability plans so that they're not continually coming back to REDI for funding, we have implemented a rule that if you have received that REDI grant specifically for capacity funding, then we're not going to fund it again. Now, if you've received a REDI grant in the past for infrastructure or for an economic plan or whatever it might be, you're still eligible to apply for a capacity building, but we're not going to be funding positions that are currently underway or who have been funded in the past by REDI. And probably the most important thing when it comes to capacity building is keeping in mind that 2-year timeline. What we have found with a lot of our capacity positions that we've funded and some of the major issues that we've run into is that we know that the hiring environment, especially in rural Colorado, is really difficult right now. And what we have found is that most of our grantees who have received funding for capacity usually take anywhere between 6 to 8 months to be able to get that position filled from the time that they get the award. So instead of 2 years when it comes to capacity building, we want to encourage you to think of it more as like an 18-month position that would be eligible for hire just because of that difficult hiring period. We do not have the ability to extend funding beyond 2025. So whatever that funding is for that year or whatever work that person would be doing for that capacity position, they need to be able to accomplish it prior to June 30th, 2025, and understanding that it takes about 6 to 8 months to get them hired. So I focus a lot on capacity building just because sort of that is the main change that we have made this year to REDI. And we want to encourage, we know that it's a big need out there, but we're hoping that sort of creating some of these additional guidelines will help communities to be more successful, and we can be more upfront about sort of our expectations on our end on how we determine what makes a capacity position successful. So with that, what are you going to be scored on? So let's say you go ahead and you decide to apply for REDI. What are you going to be critiqued on, or what will your application be critiqued on? We do have a scoring criteria, which you can see listed here on the slide of all of the different things that we are looking for. So 20 points go to community benefit and demonstration of need. We have project timeline and outcomes. We're looking for really clear timelines, really clear outcomes when it comes to what you're hoping to be able to accomplish. Is it helping to build that economic resilience within a community? That is a huge piece. Collaboration and readiness. So are you working with others in your community? Is there potentially some regional collaboration that's taking place? Is this project within a wider economic development plan already? We look for those things as well as part of your application. This one is new that we have added for this upcoming cycle, is we've added a new section for social equity. So we are hoping to encourage projects to come in that are specifically looking at helping marginalized communities to be able to create jobs, create businesses, looking for projects that are helping specifically BIPOC entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, any other folks who have been historically marginalized. If you are able to demonstrate how you're going to be helping those communities, we like to give you a little extra boost. If your project doesn't fit one of those communities, as we know in rural Colorado, not everyone has sort of that level of diversity, that doesn't disqualify you from it, but we are trying to encourage you from being able to think about how your project would impact those communities. And then last but not least is local effort and match. And so I want to just touch on that last one when it comes to match. REDI is a program that requires a local match. So depending on the project, the percentage of the match is going to look different. And the ones who you're going to work most with on determining what that match is going to look like is going to be your REDI regional managers. It is the regional managers who you're going to be working with pretty much entirely throughout the application process, as they are the ones that sort of shepherd in projects from their various regions. And then they work with you to create a really great and the strongest application that you can have possible for a decision-making committee. And then they're the ones that determine the match for your specific program. So typically that match looks anywhere between 20% to 50%. But we've had outliers that have gone outside of that range multiple different times. So it will really depend on sort of the project that you have, the community's ability to be able to get together that match. We know that a lot of Colorado rural communities, they don't have just extra funds laying around in order for us to be able to do it. And also we can work with you to be able to leverage where that match is coming from. So it can come from the local government, the municipality, or the county. There can be private match that is part of it. Maybe you've received a federal grant that has the ability for you to be able to use that funding for match. There's a lot of different ways that we're able to figure out how that match is going to be able to come in and help. So that's the brass tacks a lot of information that I just threw at you. I promise that we'll leave plenty of time for questions, and we'll be able to answer it in the chat as well. But we feel like one of the best parts of REDI is that we've been able to work with some really amazing folks throughout Colorado who have brought in really innovative projects, who've brought in some really, and who are doing really great work around this that REDI has been able to do, that we want to be able to highlight not only the great work that they've been doing, but they've also been successful applicants of REDI in the past. And so we want to hear their perspective on what the application process was like, what it is like working with their regional managers, with DOLA, all of those sort of brass tacks things that hopefully they can touch on in addition to the great work that they are doing. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce Jake Rishavi, who is the Executive Director of the Chaffee County Economic Development Corporation. Has a great project down in Chaffee County that they've been working on for the past 2 years. Jake has actually done such a great job that he successfully navigated the REDI process twice and actually has received 2 REDI grants, which is fairly unusual. So I think that's a testament to the great work that Jake and his team are doing, as well as sort of like him being really successful. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Jake to be able to talk about his accelerator program down in Chaffee County.
Thank you so much. Patrick, I'm not able to turn on my camera at the moment. I don't know if it matters. Good. Well, I'll continue moving on.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, as long as we can hear you, that's the most important thing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to address this group. It will go without saying as I get into these slides that, I mean, this support from DOLA has changed not only kind of the face of our organization, but is really having a huge impact on the business community here locally. So I'm eager to dive in and share that with you. As you heard kind of in the previous comments, we're really focused on the ecosystem building aspect of economic diversification in our area. And really this graph just kind of shows that in its simplest form, but it's really putting the business owners, the entrepreneurs and founders at the center of a value chain of resources that includes capital, coaching and training, the connections that companies need to take that next step, but also supporting kind of an entrepreneurial culture that supports the development of entrepreneurs in a given community, and then also climate. So creating the policy setting that this work can thrive. And here in Chaffee County, this is what entrepreneurship looks like. I think a lot of folks tend to associate the word with, you know, 2 kids wearing hoodies, writing code in a basement. But here it's much more focused on the products and services that really make communities like ours thrive. So a ton of consumer packaged goods, brewers, distillers, food products companies, outdoor industry gear companies, and so on. And that's going to look different in every community. But what we do is we basically identify 10 promising business growth opportunities each year, and then accept them into an 8-week curriculum-based program. And these are some of the topics that we cover, and we also tailor it to the specific needs of that cohort of 10. The next biggest part is we've with this DOLA funded support, we've built basically a statewide network of about 45 now business experts, subject matter experts that are game to voluntarily support the development of entrepreneurs in our region. These folks on this screen are all local. It's about half and half, 50-50 local and statewide mentors. And then access to capital is obviously a huge piece of that. So we've also developed a kind of an array of different types of capital that can support this type of work. So on the venture side and equity investment side, we work with Greater Colorado Venture Fund, Rockies Venture Club. On the grant side of things, obviously OEDIT and DOLA are key partners in kind of helping to assist with the growth of local companies. And then of course, also the kind of traditional lenders in communities like ours, led by Collegiate Peaks Bank.
Hey, Jake.
Yes.
Not to interrupt you, but your slides are not advancing for some reason. It might not be a big deal because the information is coming across, but we are not seeing.
Can you see it move now?
Yep, it's a little bit smaller, but I think that'll work.
Okay, cool. I'll do this for now. So jumping back to the capital piece. So a big part of any kind of local entrepreneurship ecosystem is really that access to capital piece. And here we do have the benefit of a lot of high net worth individuals who are either permanent residents or second homeowners. And so we've now built a network of 12 and counting local angel investors that are able to assist us in investing in local companies. And that group, even just in this first basically year and a month, has made their first 3 investments into local companies. Different kind out of BV is a great example of that. They basically came to us, they had a lead investor with Greater Colorado Venture Fund, and then they were seeking to raise another $400K to close their round. And we were able to assist them with $155K in local angel funding, and then also help them secure an OEDIT Advanced Industries grant for another $250,000. And that investment allowed them to take down some office space in BV, and then also to make their first hire, which was a software engineer, also here locally, looking to add 2 more positions this year. And then on the culture piece, I just wanted to show a couple of quick slides of some of the images of the events that we do. We really aim to make these events inspirational by highlighting great stories of local entrepreneurs. So we kind of checked in with this audience. We were really proud to sell out the Steam Plant Event Center in Salida, which is about 225 people. So it's just great energy. Checked in with some of the teams from the first cohort to kind of check in on their process. We interviewed on stage some of the mentor network and just talked to them about their desire to support local entrepreneurship. And then identified a couple of local entrepreneurs that just had really compelling stories, really focused too on the fact that entrepreneurship is not a straight upward line or a hockey stick. There is a lot of up and downs there. And we really talked through that with some local entrepreneurs to really show that you've got to be committed to entrepreneurship to make this stuff happen. We also announced our new cohort of companies. So it selected 9 more companies for this winter, starting to trend a little bit more towards technology, just because it's got a huge upward kind of scalability that we were looking for. We played kind of introductory videos of each of those companies, and it was just a really high energy event. Got people really excited about what we're doing here together. And we also took the opportunity to announce there was mention of we successfully pursued a second grant, which is going to allow us as a program to make direct technical assistance grants to the cohort teams to help them pursue some of the new information and relationships that they're gathering during the program. And we are extremely thankful to DOLA for that support and excited about what that's going to do to unlock local job creation. We're doing 2 more really fun upcoming events that I wanted to just call attention to. Obviously, the program itself is really about thoughtful matchmaking between these entrepreneurs and the investors and mentors and advisors they need to accelerate their growth. We do that throughout that 8-week program, but we're also building out this 2-day program called Powder Pitch at Monarch Mountain, where we're bringing in folks from statewide to do that mentoring and advising on the mountain and really just build relationships, doing kind of a quintessential Chaffee County activity, which is obviously enjoying seeing at Monarch Mountain. So we're getting a ton of excitement for that. And then we'll wrap up again, as we did last year, with kind of concluding events at the Surf Hotel in BV, which will be another kind of just full day summit, inspirational seated interviews with really cool, compelling entrepreneurs. And then also we'll be re-engaging and kind of sharing the progress of the cohort teams. And so last year, that was just a super, super fun, super high energy event. But that's kind of a sample of the flavor of what this amazing grant program through DOLA has allowed us to do. And again, going from an idea on paper a year and a half ago to now having a functioning accelerator program, mentor mentor network, local investor network, and this kind of broad community support for the value of entrepreneurship and how it can impact and shape communities has just been remarkable. And I think it's a good case study of just what is possible when you've got adequate resources to really pursue ambitious agenda. So it takes a lot of partners and a lot of key players, and DOLA and the state have been amazing partners in that regard. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've been working on, and look forward to supporting the rest of this exploration.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake. The work that you have been doing and your entire team have been doing has been something that's been really inspirational and game changing. And even what's one of the great things about this grant program, especially in the past few years, is that we've really seen these projects really take a life of their own, and see some really great ideas that get out there and inspire new projects throughout the state. And Chaffee County's Accelerator program is definitely one of those. So while I've got you really quick, Jake, I do have one quick question that I hope you could be able to answer for us, which is, as someone who has gone through the REDI application process twice, who is sort of in charge of managing the admin behind it, do you have any tips or tricks for those who might be interested in applying for REDI, or some thoughts on how to be able to make your application as successful as possible?
Well, I think the process for us was remarkably smooth. I mean, this is not a super burdensome grant application process to begin with, but I think the key for our success has been really well-established partnerships that are broad throughout the community, both in the private sector and with our local government partners. Being able to basically put to paper these existing relationships and just demonstrate that the local support for this effort is here and abundant and strong, and that if successful in pursuit of those funds, we're able to basically hit the ground running and just go. I think that's kind of what I've heard dealing with the DOLA staffers. I want to give a quick shout out to Randy Sneed, who's our local manager. She is amazing. And the ability to get, again, it's, we had developed the rough sketch of what we hoped to do, and then had already developed that stakeholder buy-in. So we could just basically hit that application period, and it was all really pretty tight. So I would say, I mean, having pursued and won grants with multiple state and federal agencies in the past, this was one of the smoother processes. And I think that's largely because we had those relationships in place. So that would be my primary advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Jake. Glad to hear about your experience was good with that. So that's awesome. We've tried to design it in a way that's easy for folks, but I think some of those tips that you gave are really good, especially the importance of relationship building. And as we get to the end of this, as we sort of talk about what next steps look like, I am going to talk about folks like Randy Sneed, who are regional managers, and the importance of getting connected with those folks. So thanks for highlighting that as well.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. So that was Jake from Chaffee County. We have another person here also from sort of central Colorado area. Michaela Tarlow has been involved with a really interesting project that REDI funded around a youth enterprise zone in the town of Center in the San Luis Valley. So in addition to Jake, Michaela is also someone who has successfully navigated the REDI process twice and has twice been successful. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of the work that her and her team are doing down in the San Luis Valley, as well as to be able to talk about some of those thoughts on how to be successful within the application process. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Michaela. Michaela, are you able to share your screen? And you are muted, just FYI.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Start with me present, just talking with my video on, and then I'll just do a screen share. And if it doesn't work, you can do it.
We'll work around it. Sounds good.
Okay. So is my video on? I don't see my video. So I don't know if anybody else can see it.
I don't see you showing up either.
Okay. It says your host has stopped it. That's why I can't turn it on.
That is strange. Well,
I could start talking and you can.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'll try to work it out on the back end.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and start your
So
presentation.
I would ditto almost all the things the previous person just said about the grant process just being smooth. I've never felt so much support in a grant process. I mean, Randy, but just everybody. And I'll just give a shout out to another DOLA program that was really helpful to me. And it was the Roadmaps program, where several rural communities work together on shared projects. And I think the relationships I built through that were really instrumental in the success we were able to have with the Youth Enterprise Zone. Should I keep trying my video? Yeah.
Zoom is just not cooperating with us, so we're going to have to just do without your wonderful face, unfortunately.
Yeah, no problem. So, our community is probably the polar opposite of what you just described. So, for example, somebody just approached me that there was an opportunity for free tablets and a 1 year of free internet. And so I said, well, how do I find out which kids in center are eligible for this? And they said 100% of your kids are eligible for this. So that's the economic status there. And the problem I was examining is rural communities. If you look at the demographic, there's just a dip. Kids leave at 18 and they don't start coming back till they're 45 if they have family there. So young people just don't see a reason to stay. And the little bit of investment that's happening is coming from, so the first grant was just for center, and then I'll describe the second grant. So in center, if you go down the downtown, there's been 4 or 5 buildings bought, but they've all been bought by out-of-town people. And so nobody locally has bought a new building. And so the problem that these, very poor rural towns are working with is, how do they give young people a reason to stay? And how do they give them some access to perhaps building a business in the area? So the concept we came up with is a youth enterprise zone. And so I had gotten some CDE grants that were just on the school side of things, but I began to realize that this is not going to work unless we bring the community along. So the first grant really has allowed us to build up community connections. And so we have kids involved. So I guess I could go to the slideshow if you want to show it, because I don't think I'm going to be able to, since I'm not showing up on the video. Do you want to try showing it, Patrick? I didn't have time to put together a slideshow because I didn't realize it was needed till this morning. So I just threw up a PDF of just a few slides that will give you a taste. And then the exciting part, I think, in some ways, is this next REDI grant that we have. So are you able to show that PDF?
Yep, Michaela, I'm going to go ahead and share it here. Let me just find it for you real quick. And
yeah, so it's called Youth Enterprise Zone. And the first step we wanted to do, I'm not seeing the whole,
yeah, sorry, I have a chat in front of me that I can't get there. So hopefully there we go.
So, okay. So the first thing we're doing is having kids develop projects based on their passions. Because if you want young people to stay, and almost every student I'm working with, they don't have someone in their family who started their own business, unless it's a very small construction related business, so painting or something like that. But so the first step was starting to get kids to post their projects. And that's the process that we have a lot of cool projects happening. We have kids helping to have input into the 90 acres, and also do basketball camps that the kids are generating. So the kids are starting to create recreational activities. That's a drama club. I can't see the stuff below it, but anyway, so we're starting to create projects so that we can begin to build what we're called. So the other thing about working with kids is it takes a couple years to get a business launched, and some kids will leave. So we're trying to create this idea of like extendable businesses. So we already have a few kids. Last year we had a very successful auto show. We have some new kids taking it on. The basketball camps was started last year. New kids are taking it on. And the only caveat we give is they can use all the materials that the previous person used, but they build on it. They have to take it further, and that's what they've done. So you can go to the next one. So the next thing we're playing around with, and it's just at the very beginning stages, is to start to have the kids run a magazine. So again, the town has a newsletter, the school has a newsletter, and I ask kids, do they know what this exciting things that the town is doing? and none of the kids know about it, none of their parents. So we're going to develop a combined magazine that will include information from both the town and the school. And I've been just kind of doing focus grouping the kids, how they can bring their, so some of the teachers are going to start to give assignments where they have to read some of these articles and use it in class, and then getting the kids to get their parents involved in reading these articles. And we're going to translate everything because it's a lot of the kids are first generation English speakers. So then the next one, I'm just giving some examples of things we're doing. So it's not as organized as the previous presentation. Sorry about that. I can do that. So the Civics Lab has been particularly successful. So we had a bunch of young people work with mass design, which is helping to do planning for this 90-acre development. And we got them to put aside 5 spaces for students to be involved in the planning commission. So first the kids did a survey that was used in this mass design experiment. And then we had the kids do, their data was used, and now the kids are part of the planning commission. And what the adults do not know is that the kids are now studying topics that will come up in the planning commission, and they're practicing presenting. Because, you know, too often kids are just like window dressing in these things. And so we're trying to get them used to presenting and you know, making a difference in the planning commission. And then the last thing, the last slide shows this is an offsite space that we developed, which has been really hard because there was plumbing problems and all sorts of things and a low budget. But we now have space in the downtown area, which will be partially a hangout space, but it's also going to be a business incubator for student businesses. And I think we have some really legitimate businesses starting to happen. But the exciting part, so then I don't know how much more time I have, so cut me short, Patrick, if I'm going too long, but so the second REDI grant, and this feels like a huge challenge, but I'm really excited. We're just stepping out into that one, is okay. We had a very generous budget for putting this together in Center. So we were able to offer paid internships to almost every kid. We were able to integrate it with the capstone project. So this next grant is far less money, far less per school. And we're going to try to scale all the ideas that we've done in Center, because the whole key, I think, for sustainability is, can you start doing this for less money? And so that's what the next 18 months are about, is can we replicate some of what we have created in Center, hopefully all, at a much lower price point, because we're trying to get the price point somewhere where these towns could possibly absorb continuing the program. So that's what we've been working on. And I just want to echo, I mean, Randy's been amazing. Christy before that, who was involved in the first one, involvement in the roadmaps team. I just have found, just being involved with DOLA, just a different kind of grant experience than I've ever experienced. And also the opportunity, especially that economic ecosystem, is that, especially in small towns, there's not, it's very hard to concentrate your efforts in one area, because you have 2 people in that area and 1 person in another area, 4 people in another area. And so I think, especially for small, low-income towns, developing an economic ecosystem is really the place you have to start. So that's what I've really appreciated about the REDI grant.
Awesome. Any other last thoughts there, Michaela?
I don't know. I just can't, the other thing I guess I've appreciated is just the ability to be, to offer something that doesn't like fit in neat categories. I mean, that's been the most exciting part, because, you always face, like, you put out a grant for this one thing, and then you go, but how am I going to do this other thing that I need to support it? And this felt like one of the few grants I've come across that allows you to kind of blend all these integrated needs.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I'm actually really glad to hear that, because that was very intentional in how REDI was designed, was to allow for that flexibility and that creativity of projects like yours and Jake's that we've been able to see. So I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you, Michaela.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing here and turn on my camera so everybody can see me. I want to thank both Jake and Michaela for joining us today. Obviously, they are doing some really cool and interesting work in their communities. Despite not being that far geographically, the challenges that they have to face are quite different. But both of them have been able to overcome it. And one of the part of the reasons why we wanted to highlight these two projects as well is that they have been really great at showing what you can do with a small amount of money to make big impacts, whether that is through the accelerator program in Chaffee County that's, touching businesses, or through touching the lives of youth entrepreneurs who are looking to be able to get that experience when it comes to starting a business. There's some really cool and creative ways that you can be able to do it. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. We can try to answer them at the moment. But before I go into our general sort of question and answer session, I'm sure all of you are wondering, now that you've heard about all the wonderful, great things that REDI can do for you, what are your next steps? So your first really big next step, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again, is to reach out to your DOLA regional manager. So while I am the program manager and my colleague Kate is our rural prosperity manager, the ones who you're probably going to be working with on the most for your application process are your DOLA regional managers. If you're not familiar with DOLA, what our regional managers or who our regional managers are, there is a link that you can go to here. It's cdola.colorado.gov/regional managers. I'll put that link into the chat. They're the ones that you're going to want to reach out to saying like, hey, I have this great project. I want to apply for REDI. And they will work with you on determining whether or not you are eligible, and then work with you to help you in the application process as well. So that is going to be the first one. If you're not familiar with your regional manager for your community, on this link that I'll put in the chat here, you'll be able to figure out who that is. We do have a variety of different regional managers throughout the state, some of whom are actually online with us today, who are going to be able to help you with that project. That being said, if you do have any questions, or if you do need any additional assistance, myself as well as my colleague Kate are available to be able to help you with that. Something that I offer folks is just a quick 10 to 15 minute eligibility consultation where we just hop on the phone or hop on a video chat. And we can talk about your project idea and whether or not that is actually going to be something that is feasible for REDI. So I'm able to provide sort of that high level technical assistance in determining whether or not REDI and going through the application process is something that is right for you. And we are happy to help you with that. Like I said, definitely reach out to your regional managers. Our application portal, which is something else that I will go ahead and put into the chat as well once we go into questions and answers. Does open on February 16th and closes on March 16th. So you have a month in order to be able to get your application in. Definitely recommend speaking to your regional manager before you apply those so that you can figure out whether or not you're going to be a competitive application for this cycle. So all of that being said, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen as it's a little bit distracting here. And I will open it up to any folks who have questions and answers in the Q&A section or in the chat section. Do we have any questions for myself, for our presenters, or for anybody else for the good of the order?
I've got one question in the Q&A, Patrick, that is, I run a small rural water and sewer system south of Steamboat Springs. One of the most critical problems is retaining staff due to cost of living. The district has been thinking about building employee housing from purchase of land to construction. Is this something that this grant can be used for?
Yeah, affordable housing is definitely a huge issue throughout the state. We know it's a major issue. My general answer to that is kind of a wishy-washy answer, which is to say that it really will depend on the specific intent of that. We have in the past supported programs that have worked on employee housing. For example, there's a construction trade industry program that we supported in Montrose that also had a housing component to it. But since DOLA and other state programs exists that sort of directly work on employee housing or on affordable housing, we tend to only support projects like that so long as they have a really specific economic goal in mind, right? So for example, the Montrose program it had a housing component, but the main push of it was also to create an ecosystem where there was a construction industry that would be building that affordable housing. So I don't know if the housing itself would be eligible, but I'd probably need to know a little bit more about your specific project to determine whether or not it's eligible. Kate, any other thoughts on that one?
No, that was well stated. Yeah, I would say the thing that REDI fills can be kind of the weird niches in between. We don't have enough funding to fund affordable housing projects themselves, but if there's gaps that are preventing your workforce housing projects, that you can come talk to us about it and we can vet if those are eligible or not.
Yep. Great question though. Any others before we go ahead and wrap up? Cool. Well, I'll give folks a minute to be able to go ahead and answer that. But while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and share a few links for everyone. This first link here is going to be a link to our Rural Economic Development Initiative page on the DOLA website. On that website here, which if my computer will allow me to be able to do it, my internet is apparently a little bit slow. I'm going to go ahead and share that with everybody. This is the website that you can go to if you have any questions. It also has what we call our NOFA, our Notice of Funding Availability, on it under the application guidelines link that you'll see on there. It has all that information that I went through at the first part of the presentation that you can be able to do. In addition to that, I'm going to go ahead and share that link to the regional managers, so you can determine who is the regional manager in your area if you're not already familiar with that. And you can go ahead and start the process of reaching out to them to determine whether or not REDI would be a good program for you to be able to apply to. While we're doing,
we've got another question here on, have you worked with your local Chamber of Commerce?
Great question. So we have worked with chambers of commerce in the past, but as a reminder, going back to that first part of the section, since I know that was like an hour ago at this point, chambers of commerce by themselves are not eligible for REDI. They would have to partner with either a municipal government or a county government on a program. But let's say, for example, a local chamber of commerce is working on an economic development plan. That would be an eligible potential project for REDI. They would just have to find that applicable partner with the municipal or county government in order to be able to receive the funding. So they're allowed to partner, but they're not eligible on their own. Hopefully that answers your question. Any others? Cool. Well, if there are any other questions that came up, I'm going to go ahead and put my email into the chat here as well. You're more than welcome to go ahead and email me with any questions or any follow-up that you have. Like I said, something that I've done in the past are these quick 10 to 15 minute eligibility consultations with folks. Happy to set that up with anybody who might be interested. But hopefully this was good information for all of you as you're thinking about applying for REDI. Like I said, that deadline for the application is going to be coming up on March 16th. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will go ahead and give you back another 3 minutes of your time and appreciate everyone for attending today. Have a great rest of your day.